So the topic we chose was the American sitcom Friends. We chose this because it is a very well-known sitcom, well-known TV show. It is literally the most successful TV shows ever. It is the epitome of a typical American New Yorker that just arrived. It shows the ups and downs of having to be in a new environment and having to adjust to that lifestyle by yourself. The classic family sitcom captured the attention of many, many, many Americans that wanted to escape the reality of their current lives and live through the eyes of somebody else. They lived through the six main characters that all had different challenges and different ways of life, different backgrounds, different families, different ethnicities, and different forms of communication. We will be explaining the types of communication that are present in this sitcom. There are a lot because they come from different backgrounds, and communication likes to vary between different people. The credibility that we have for this show is the fact that it is well known. We have all watched it. We all can relate to the show in some shape or form. And
the producers of the show Friends tried to make the show as realistic as possible. This is clear with the types of jobs that the main cast has. Ross is a paleontologist, Monica is a chef, and Joey is a quote-unquote rising actor. This gives the show a sense of reality and a relationship with the viewers because we see ourselves within these people because we have these jobs. We know somebody who wants to be an actor or who goes to school to be a chef, or we know somebody who is a paleontologist. And this extends the sense of reality that we have with the show. This sense of reality can be extended to the point that the creators even gave the cast or the characters realistic problems that they must deal with. Problems that we all face on a day-to-day basis, like losing jobs, being cheated on, or even having a loved one come out as LGBT. We see this with Chandler losing his job, Ross's wife coming out as a lesbian. And I can relate to this a lot because when Ross found out that his ex-wife, is a lesbian, I could see that same confusion reflected in my parents' eyes and my loved ones' eyes when I came out to them as bisexual. And this situation strengthened my relationship with my family because of our unconditional love for one another. And that's how I connected to the show. I could see that, and I could find that relatability. Our problems are reflected into the show, and it adds another layer of relatability. Communication is highly seen throughout every scene as a result of this. The characters in Friends are very lively and animated. They're always expressing how they feel whenever a dilemma appears. This can be seen very, very clearly in the relationship that Ross and Rachel have. They don't have good communication skills. They ignore what the other one says because one always thinks they're right, or they both always think they're right, when in certain situations that's not true. This can be seen in the dynamic that they have in we were on the break era of the show, where they both just continuously argued without being able to hear each other out and express themselves in an appropriate manner for two people their age. This can also be seen when push comes to shove, Rachel is pregnant with Ross's child, and they decide to put their issues on the back burner to be able to focus on their child. This shows that the characters are willing to communicate to solve their problems in a right way. Another example of this relationship or of this dynamic could be seen in Chandler and Monica's relationship, which is much healthier than Ross's and Rachel's. because they know how to stand their ground, and they have a huge emphasis on being able to communicate because it was very important to both of them. This can be seen in little fights that they have, but they always do end up making up, much like when Chandler wanted to get a lazy boy, and Monica didn't want it because she didn't think it fit into the decor of her living room. But as the episode progressed, they talked it out, and they ended up getting Chandler's lazy boy chair. This shows that they have a healthy way of communicating. They disagree on things, but then they decide to talk it out like grown adults, and they work through it. The show Friends shows they show both effective and non-effective communication skills.
My main point is that it shows the importance of communication between families, friends, acquaintances, work environments, regular one-time environments, and how important it is to get your point across as best as possible. The communication that is shown in this show is very pronounced in two relationships, which are the Ross and Rachel relationship and the Monica and Chandler relationship. We can see that Ross and Rachel are always bickering, they're always breaking up, they're always not in the happiest ways possible. They end up having a child that was not planned and seemed to mess with everybody else's plans. One of them ended up getting married to somebody else. The other one was dating another person when they really loved each other, but they didn't want to say anything because they knew the relationship wasn't going to get anywhere. On the other side, you have Monica and Chandler, and they are the exact opposite. They are always communicating with how they feel, what's going on between them, if they feel like there is something wrong going on in the relationship at the time. They always communicate. At one point, one of them goes long distance, and they have fertile problems, which causes them to communicate in the best ways possible, and they are genuinely the most healthy relationship in the entire sitcom franchise. It is shown that some forms of communication are effective and some are not. You can tell that even when Ross and Rachel try to communicate, it never works because one is always bickering louder than the other. But Monica and Chandler are always giving each other the time to talk and really listening to the other and trying to find that median or solution. It is always showing what the characters genuinely truly feel, and they display that very well. Some are way more aggressive than others, but obviously one couple takes the time to sit down and talk through their situation. It also shows that there is a positive and a negative display of communication between two people, and that it helps the viewers show and understand the true communication at its finest.
The time these two are actually in a stable relationship with each other is surprisingly short, and the writers instead favored a constant back and forth that kept audiences on their toes, waiting to see what would happen next. It took them forever to actually get together, and then when they did, there was serious conflict almost right from the start.
Is this about Mark?
Oh my God.
Okay, it's not.
Oh my God. I cannot keep having the same fight over and over again, Ross. No, you're making this too hard.
Over the course of the next season, they entered into a serious relationship, and from then on, they stuck together through thick and thin.
We're moving to Tulsa.
What?
I can't hear.
When Chandler accidentally took a job in Tulsa, they made long-distance work, and when they suffered from fertility problems, their relationship got even stronger.
We're gonna figure this out.
The show really speaks to me because I use the show as my escape from my life problems. I like to watch other ordinary people struggle and overcome their obstacles. It makes me feel like my problems are normal and that I can get through it because the characters of Friends could, despite their jobs and their busy schedule.
Remember that communication is key. Anything that you do in life has some form of communication in it. Even if you don't notice it, it is considered a form of communication. It can be as simple as telling a McDonald's worker what your order is and because they can't read your mind. They obviously need you to communicate with them what your order is, or having to talk to a client in your firm about what's going on with a case. You have to communicate those types of things that are going on, because if you're not, obviously the word's not going to get out there. Some communication is very misinterpreted, it can be misinformed, people like to twist words around, and it gets really, really, really hard to genuinely say what you want to say. Communication obviously is very important for your job, very important for your relationships. As the age-old tale for a bunch of older couples say, that communication literally is key to a healthy relationship, because if you can't communicate what you feel, it's literally just going to become a one-sided love or a no-sided love, and that is what keeps everything going, the excitement going, the sparks flowing. And it is just a type of level that we need to express, because we are human beings, we have feelings, and it is just something that we as humans need to talk about things, because if you leave it bottled up inside for too long, you can explode, and communicating and talking really makes everything better.
The show Friends illustrates how typical Americans live out their day-to-day lives, communication in various forms, and how relationships are affected due to communication. Friends ran for a total of 10 years, but the novelty of the show remained relatable almost 2 decades later. The success of the show is due to Americans that found their own personal struggles displayed upon them on the TV in front of them. We could see ourselves and our friends in the same never-ending struggle that is young adulthood through the characters of Friends. We laughed when they laughed, we cried when they cried, because we all had been there. We all know what it's like when it's not been our day, our month, or even our year.